Yeah. Now you brought up lots of good points there. I like the analogy of the mountain or climbing the mountain and the vantage points. One of the analogies I share with my clients, Geoff, when they're getting started is, so you've got these grand plans to climb this mountain and grow this business, but we need to get to a level playing field. And I call it base camp, because for people who climb Mount Everest, before you can ever get to the top, you've got to get to base camp. And even getting to base camp can take a good 2 to 3 years of training and acclimatization and mindset and all the stuff that you've got to do just to get to base camp. And for some people, getting to base camp would be the highlight of their climbing career, right? Because it's still a significant climb. So for someone who's never been in business before and they've got an idea and they're thinking, well, how can I be filthy rich and retire on some island and all of that? So that's top of Mount Everest stuff, right? You know, there's a certain amount of knowledge and mindset that you got to get used to. So you got to almost acclimatize at a base level. Now, whether you get there on your own or you do some research or you have someone to help you, like a coach or a mentor or whatever it might be, a mastermind group, you need to get to this baseline level where once you're there, you've got certain skills, certain knowledge, certain expectations. Maybe you've got a good plan now, so you know where to be at different points, like you said. And guess what? When you get to the top, what do? You got to come back down, right? At some point. Most people actually, I've read this somewhere, and I'm sure it's fairly true. If you're lucky enough to get to the top of Mount Everest, the majority of people that die coming downhill. Because, so here's the thing I found really interesting. They teach you how to get to the top. They don't teach you how to come back down. And so most people will get, and this is where we see people who start successful businesses, they make a lot of money, or it's like winning the lotto, right? You won the lotto, you got all this stuff. And that's when you make bad decisions. That's where you haven't planned for it. You haven't accounted for, well, what do you do when you get to the top, or when you've achieved all your goals? Or do you have more goals? Do you have do you put a safety net in place? Do you plan for certain things when eventually you're going to have to come off that mountain, and people don't think of the next step? So, you're not going to stay on the top of that mountain forever. Even Olympians retire, even, the Roger Federers and all, they eventually reach their number one, and then they have to come down at some point. But how do you do it? And who's going to help you with that transition and all of that? I think it's really important to have someone who can guide you with that, because again, building a business it's not easy, and you might have some challenges along the way, and you might even get to the top, but then what? What is it all about? What was the ultimate aim of you starting that business? And I often ask people, why do you want to start a business? It's hard work. It's incredibly frustrating work at times. And if you've already got a job and you've got family and you've got all of this, why would you want to put yourself through the paces? Like, what is business going to help you achieve that you couldn't get there without business? And if you can answer that question, that'll be your why or your motivating factor. It won't be the dollars necessarily. It won't be I want to be the number one and provider of this service, because you'll quickly grow out of that. So we're talking about a different topic.
Really crucial. It's having that right goal.
Yeah.
A lot of, again, the stuff I did around productivity and done and weekly done and the rest of it was that was the crucial piece.
Yeah.
But if we choose the wrong goal, we can actually waste all our motivation or not even be motivated by the goal. So that's a crucial one. And it's kind of the same. I remember they were talking to, what's his name, Hay, who was the lead singer of Men at Work, going back and showing my age. But they were the incredible Australian success story that their first album was a worldwide hit. But the problem was they didn't have any credibility with the record company, so they made absolutely no money on their first album. And then it was like, how do you top that for their second album? And I think the reality was their second album was a bit of a dud in the sense because the first one was so successful. But they actually made more money off the second album because they then had some bargaining positioning. But it's kind of that same thing, isn't it? It's like when we start out, what's our motivating force is going to be a crucial one, because there's always going to be days when we're not motivated. We're struggling. We're either tired or bored or things aren't going to plan, that we're going to need some reference point or benchmark to come back and go, hey, why am I doing this? Why is this important? Why is it worth sticking at this? And as you said earlier, I really love the notion of being in business as a personal development program, because you're going to see yourself warts and all. How do I respond when I win? How do I respond when it gets hard? How do I respond when I'm not getting the results I want? These are all things that are going to come up. And I think that's part of the journey that makes it worthwhile. I think I'm a better person from having been in business, if that makes sense.
Well, that's fascinating. I mean, I'll even go as far as to say it's not just a personal development journey, it's also a professional development journey. Because let's say you were an accountant and now you start a business. You don't just use your accounting skills. You're now going to develop, at some point, you're going to develop strategy skills, sales skills, marketing skills, communication or PR, because you're going to be doing at some point, marketing and advertising. You'll develop operational skills because you need to manage all these different moving parts. You might at some point hire staff or outsource certain work. So now you're dealing with people. So you've got people management skills. So it's quite fascinating what business will teach you that a normal degree or a college diploma or even high school or just simple work experience in one siloed field won't teach you. And if you're someone that just wants to learn, wants to grow, wants to develop, try a hand at business, perhaps with an idea that you have where you think you can add some value to society, make a few dollars along the way, make a difference. Business can be some of probably the best thing you could ever do, quite frankly. But you just got to do it for the right reasons, I think.